Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and today I want to tell you a story from my childhood. This is something I've never forgotten. My father took me one time to this was back in the, I guess, 90s or late 80s. They had in my town a thing called the Bad Man. It was either called the Tough Man or the Bad Man contest. And in that contest, they would invite, and today with liability the way it is, I don't know if they would even do that kind of thing now or do it anymore. But back then they had this Tough Man contest, and they would do big advertisement and television commercials and basically invite the public to come down and prove who's the toughest. And you could enter this contest, and it was a boxing match, more or less, and the people from the community would get up in this ring and just fight it out. And then there was, of course, a prize to the winner. But there was one particular fight when I went to this show one time that just blew my mind, and it really illustrates a point about life. I watched, there was this really big, and when I was growing up, Mike Tyson was huge. Well, there was this really big black guy that entered the ring in this particular fight. This guy had the black trunks the way that Mike Tyson used to wear them. He looked like Mike Tyson, except he looked maybe a foot taller than Mike Tyson. He looked like a sculpture of a man in that ring. I would have been terrified to get in a ring with this guy. He had huge muscles, looked like he worked out all the time, looked like the picture of strength and dominance. And then this guy walks into the ring who is a short, fat, dumpy white guy whose clothes looked like they were hanging off of him. This guy was literally a foot shorter than the sculpture of a man that looked like Mike Tyson. And I remember looking at my dad and saying, well, this isn't going to be any contest. We know what's going to happen here. But that short, dumpy white guy who had a huge beer belly had this look in his eyes. And as we watched that fight unfold, he went up to that other guy who he was literally reaching up to hit. And he worked that guy over. He hit him so many times that guy did not even know what hit him. And he went down quickly. I could not believe what I was seeing. And to this day, that made quite an impression on me. Fast forward to today, and the tweet from Marcus Treacher that you're looking at right now. Now, the big controversy on Twitter and on the internet and just around Ripple and the Sibos conference that's going on right now, the big controversy is, there were so many people that were saying that Swift was going to partner with Ripple and this, that kind of thing, and this, that, and the other. Well, I say to you that it's really irrelevant whether they partner, whether they just take over. The point is that we know what we're invested in, we know what Ripple is, and we know what XRP is. But what I want to do here is make another point. I want to make a point about, and I've said it before, but I want to really focus in on this. Look at the swagger that these guys have. Now, people normally, confidence is, I've told you before, confidence is 99% of life. Look at the confidence that these guys at Ripple, Marcus Treacher is one of the executives over there, or Treacher, I'm sorry. And this is his tweets. Swift at Sibos today. The benefits of DLT are promising, but delivering it is still years away. There are over 100 financial institutions with access to instant payments across 40 countries and 6 continents. Who would say otherwise? Hashtag Cybos. Well, this guy, I mean, I literally commented in this right here. I said the gloves are off, because when I read that, I was like, wow. It's one thing to be going in to compete with a company, but I mean, to be that confident tells you a lot. To be willing to say something like that and put it out there like that tells you a lot. And then I log on to Twitter this morning, and it's followed by this. Another Ripple executive who retweets Marcus Treacher's tweet and says, there you go again, dissing the buggy whips. I mean, these guys, what they have, listen to me carefully, what these guys have is the eye of the tiger. Do you remember the eye of the tiger? I do. One of the greatest movies of all time, not necessarily this one, but this was Rocky 3. But if you remember the entire Rocky movie, if you really want to sum up what Rocky is about, is overcoming and confidence and having that eye of the tiger. This is Rocky 3, where Rocky had been beat by Clubber Lang, who was the guy played by Mr. T with the mohawk. And Apollo was training Rocky after he had lost to Clubber Lang in that first fight. And he was walking him through, as I recall, he's walking into one of the old school gyms where the young guys who are up and coming boxers that are training, and he looks at the boxers, and he turns and he tells Rocky, he says, because all the boxers that had not made it yet, they all had this look in their eye. And he says, see that look in their eyes, Rock? You got to get that look back, Rock. Eye of the tiger, man. Well, what I'm saying to you here is that Marcus Treacher, these guys at Ripple, there's a reason they have the eye of the tiger. There's a reason that these guys are walking around with this swagger. There's a reason that they have this confidence. And there's a reason that you too should have this confidence, because these aren't dumb people. These are some of the best people that have come from different parts of the industry. These are the best of the best, the smartest, the brightest, the most educated. They have the eye of the tiger, and so does the digital asset investor, because I know what's coming. Okay, moving along. Now, I want to recover this, because I covered this when he first did it, okay? Not this guy, but first, before I go along, I want to give some credit here. All right, the guy that copied me on this is Vineet Visist. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but anyway, he posted this up, so I want to give him credit, at VINEETVASISTH. And he posted this, and it's an article that links to it's an article that's written called "Explain the Great Cryptocurrencies Conspiracy." I'm going to go over this, but before I do, I want to show you a reply to it. He sent this to me and some other people, and he said, good read on probably one of the reasons why prices are low. But I want to read to you Galgatron, who I've talked about before. Also, if you're not following Galgatron, you need to go follow him. It's at GALGITRON. He is great on XRP. Very smart guy. But in his reply to this, and you'll understand in a second, his reply to this, it's a bit over the top with the collusion angle, simply because these guys don't need to collude to manipulate the market with their published sentiments. However, their individual manipulations are blatant, okay? And so I agree with what he's saying here, because what the article is about, and now I'll show you. Okay, first you need to understand who Tika, let me see if I make sure I'm saying this right. Tika Tor is this guy right here. He is the editor of the Palm Beach Research Group, okay, and they put out like a financial newsletter, okay. Well, a few months ago, he went on and did a long video about cryptocurrencies with Glenn Beck, who's the big radio personality. And so, but what this is many of you did not hear me go over that, and that's why I'm showing you this, because it's very good and it's very on point. But what he went over with Glenn Beck, what he is seeing going on in the market. Now, I want you to understand before I go through this, Tika Tuar's position. I'm right in line with the way he thinks on most of these things. But the difference between me and him, and the reason I'm going over this with you, is that he's out there literally meeting with big players and big institutions and investors and finding out what's really going on behind the scenes. For me, I'm reading you articles and telling you what I think is going on. But it's nice every once in a while to get the confirmation from people who are out there amongst the actual institutions and the people that are investing. So here we go. Now I'm going to read a lot of what he says in here, but it's so good that I have to. Okay, and I'll read things when that's when that's the way. First, he talks about the precedent. He says the last time I saw something like this was back during 1994 to 1995. Mr. Tory said individuals were making just enormous amounts of money buying companies like Dell, AOL, Microsoft, Netscape, and the institutions had completely missed that bull market. Mr. Tory claims institutions intent on making sure they didn't miss out on the boom started spreading fear into the market. Institutions went saying anybody buying internet stocks, you're idiotic. You're idiotic. So you had a lot of people selling their AOL, selling their Microsoft, selling their Dell shares. Guess who was buying? It was the institutions, Mr. Tory claims. From 1995 to 2000, $5 trillion came into the market in one of the biggest bull runs in history. So this blueprint of creating fear in order to get cheap prices is nothing new, Mr. Tory said. Does any of this sound like, this is me talking now, does any of this sound like anything I've been telling you? I think it might. So moving along. So now he fast forwards you to now. And he says in September 12th of 2017, he says, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, says Bitcoin is a fraud and he'll fire any of his traders who buy Bitcoin. Mr. Tory says that Bitcoin's price dropped 24% before something interesting happened. That week, we found out the largest buyer of a Bitcoin fund that's in Europe was Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan, he said. Then on January 24th, 2018, legendary investor George Soros says Bitcoin is a bubble and the worst investment in the world. Mr. Tory says that Bitcoin's price dropped 44% before something interesting happened. In April, 2 months later, guess what we find out? This is Soros's $26 billion family office has approval to buy cryptocurrency, he said. Then, on February 27th, 2018, investment banking firm Goldman Sachs says most cryptocurrencies will crash to zero. Mr. Tory thought this was strange because through his network, he knew Goldman Sachs was actually setting up a crypto trading desk. They were denying it, but I absolutely knew that they were setting up a cryptocurrency trading desk. Then, just before May, they announced a new trading desk. Not only that, they put $400 million to buy a cryptocurrency trading platform. Mr. Tory says those three developments happened around the same time. I can't prove collusion, but if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Well, that's him talking. Again, this is the digital asset investor. Now, I tend to agree with Galgatron on this. I believe that part of it, that's where I kind of depart. I'm not saying that anybody's colluding on anything like that. And then he says, if Bitcoin is such a trashy asset, why are all these people getting involved? And then he goes on to his prediction. He says, you will see this market absolutely explode to the upside. Mr. Tory said, I was at a private client event held at a castle in Tuscany about a week ago. I had a meeting there with a gentleman who used to run a $20 billion state pension fund. He loves crypto. Mr. Tory also believes that we will see a Bitcoin exchange traded fund within months because the Chicago Board of Exchange, CBOE, one of the most trusted and most important financial institutions in the United States, will provide insurance for the ETF. That's him talking. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that the digital asset investor has hashtag 0 doubt, and I'm headed for Liechtenstein one way or the other. Thanks for listening.